Good morning, all. Good morning. There we go. It's a pleasure to go ahead and have this amazing fireside chat this morning. My name is Jeff Kratz. I get the privilege of looking after our Latin America, Canada, and Caribbean business. I think a bigger privilege is being able to have an amazing conversation this morning with the Chief Digital Officer as well as the Deputy Minister for the Government of Canada.
Assistant Deputy Minister.
Assistant.
You got me a promotion though, it's not too bad, right? It's a good way to start my morning.
Good way to start the morning.
I know, exactly.
And I've had a lot of fun working with governments throughout the region, and you're in for a treat because the energy, the experience, and more thinking about the citizens in Canada, you keep driving. And so you inspire me every conversation that we've had. Tell us a little bit, first of all, tell us a little bit about ISED. Not everyone's familiar.
Sure. Are there any Canadians in the room? Go Raptors.
Yes.
That was a very sad moment last night.
Just postponed
I think Larry needed his glasses on or something. Mm-hmm. He missed the entire basket. But it's okay. It's okay. We're going to win the next one. I would say that the Government of Canada did a significant reorg in the last few years. Like the entire government started to think about how we can actually service industry better, because we have citizens who work in really, really big industries and really, really small businesses. And we're trying to sort out how we can actually make a really big difference in terms of getting closer to that type of economic driver. And so what innovation, science, and economic development does, it's a mouthful for a name for a department, is really help industry and business. And we try to figure out where we need to invest differently, what's happening in terms of helping them grow, scale, what are entrepreneurs doing, where are their focus, what problems are they trying to solve, what programs can we spend more time investing in? How do we get everyone access to the internet? Some of the fundamentals are still a problem for us because in Canada, there is this vast nation and a lot of them are underserved and less populated parts of the country. And it's hard to get them access to the fundamentals of basic health care and tech and everything else. But we focus on getting them access to what they need to build their businesses and grow. So that's what the department does. And we literally, I would say, there's probably not an industry and not a sector in business that we don't serve. We do everyone.
Now, you've been there a little over 2 years. What was it like when you first came into the role, and what were some of the challenges?
It was so hard. I came from a private sector, and it was really different. And I think that for everyone that works in the public sector, you start off and say, oh my God, I've got this job where I'm actually helping everyone around me in some way that I can. And then all of a sudden, you realize it's really hard because we are like, everything's a process and everything's a policy and everything's a rule. Or at least it's perceived to be that way. And I started off by being told exactly what I couldn't do. You can't do this, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do that. My favorite was, one of my colleagues is here, Dan, he's a CIO, and my favorite was, I told Jeff this earlier today, I come to my first day at work and I get a BlackBerry, and BlackBerries are cool. I don't know if anyone still has one. I mean, I've got some old tech in my house somewhere, but I hadn't used a BlackBerry in a long time, and I think for those who are used to it, it's fine, but I was not used to it, and I had an iPhone for a while, and I'm not saying that one tech is better than the other. What I'm saying is my adoption was kind of different with BlackBerry, so I asked for an iPhone, and Dan, or one of his members of his team says, we have iPhones, and yet we have 3, and they're pilots, and I'm like, it's 2017, how's an iPhone a pilot? It's not even the same sentence. So like going through that experience and then literally trying to figure out what do I do as a digital leader to change how we serve businesses? Can I get the stuff that we do in the palm of their hands? Where's all the tech? Do I have anything that is even marginally scalable. So I mean, you know, you go into these interesting conversations. So my experience was, oh my God, I have this dream, and it's like way over here, and I'm starting like really over here. And that I wasn't used to. I was used to kind of maybe starting in the middle somewhere. I have some basic stuff. The organization understands modern technology. They understand, you know, how to leverage data. They understand good design. They know that the person that you serve should be in the center of what you're trying to think about doing. But there was none of that going on. So the hardest part was keeping the dream alive while literally trying to get through all of those things I had to get through. And we're going to talk about what some of that stuff was. But I think if there's anything I can do today, it's to, one, inspire you guys because it's possible. It really is possible. In under 2 years, we did a ton of stuff in the government of Canada. I'm really, really proud of the team, really proud. And two, to maybe give you some hows. Because you know what? I can sit here and say, wait, you need to leverage the cloud. Go do it. But that's what everyone says. What I can do is give you some ideas as to how we actually went about achieving it, because that is actually the hardest part of the job.
Well, and jumping into that, how did you get started?
Oh, great. That's right now.
When you're brand new, coming from the private industry, you've got an amazing background, you're inspired to drive change on behalf of the citizens, yet all these different blockers are there. How did you get a sense of momentum going?
Well, I got a sense of momentum because I think there was a lot of people, I know there's a lot of people in my own team, and even, well, especially my own team, because you often are looking for bright lights, right? That wanted to do it. So you always start by saying, hey, you guys, who's in? Who wants to do this kind of stuff differently? And so there was a lot of people who raised their hand. And that actually inspired me because it's hard. And the other thing that's hard is we often don't ask. We just go, okay, you guys come help me go do this. But you know, the people have all the knowledge and all of the, they have the desire. And so I started by saying, we have a bunch of stuff that I think we should do. What do you guys think? So kind of getting opinions from the team and then getting people to almost volunteer. There was a bit of volunteering as well, but it was a combination, but trying to get the team. And the team was scared, and so was I. And then...
what were they scared most about?
They were scared about doing something different.
Okay.
They were scared about breaking rules, or at least, like I said, perceived, right? So here's an example of breaking a rule. I said to the team, okay, we need to start working, and I'm going to use buzzwords because we have to use some buzzwords, so we're going to start working as an agile team. Everyone's like, yeah, we do that. Okay, great, let's do that. So everyone goes back into their cubicles, and they start using Jira and Confluence and all these tools, and we're an agile team now. I'm like, where's the agile team? Well, there's no agile team. So the breaking of the rules was, we are allowed to remove the cubicles? We're allowed? And I was like, well, where does it say we're not allowed to remove the cubicles? We're allowed to use some different tech. We can use open source tech. Well, where does it say you can't, right? So breaking the rules was the perception of the traditional way of how we work and saying, okay, clean sheet of paper, how do you want to work? And are you going to be comfortable in doing it like that? And so an agile team is not just a team that uses tools. An agile team is a team that actually wants to work together and see each other every day and not use email to tell other people what to do. Like, that's not how we roll. So you have to start to work as a true collaborative, dynamic team. So we didn't break any rules. We created some new spaces. We put in some digital displays. We started to meet every day and talk to each other every day and do our stand-ups. We started to track what we were doing. We started to work in the open. That's the how, right? And I think that was the fear, was the belief that you can't do something. And what surprised me was all of the myth busting that I had to do constantly.
Like what were some of those myths that you had to just break down during the last 2 years?
It's really hard to get access to tech.
Okay. And how did you break those down?
I don't know, Dan, how do we break those down? it was, so first of all, I think what also really helped was having some friends, right?
Okay.
So coming from a different part.
Friends in government, friends in private?
I didn't have a lot of friends in government. I had friends in private. So most of my colleagues that I'd worked with for 20 years or so worked in different companies, right? Microsoft, Amazon, IBM, Google, Apple, what have you. And when Dan and the team said, well, we have procurement opportunities, they all actually exist. We've got all kinds of supply arrangements. We're the government of Canada. You can find a supply arrangement. You can find an opportunity to procure. We have tons and tons of contracts. They're just not leveraged properly, or they're hidden away. You can't really, you got to go sniff them out, right? But when you go to your friends and you say, you must know how we can work together, and they say, totally. It just so happens, though, that it's this department that's leveraging that service in a certain way. And I'll be like, well, just call the department and we'll share. Like, it's that kind of myth busting, right? And getting your friends to give you the ideas. And then doing a lot of proof of concepts as well, because you can't just dive in. It's scary. Even me, who's not often that afraid of doing things, I did not have enough courage to just dive right in, because it's a lot of money that you can end up wasting, and we don't really know what we're doing. So you have to experiment. So the other myth busting was, okay, let's do a small little thing, a pilot. Let's spend 6 months, or 6 months too long for me, 6 weeks, and let's invest a little bit of money, and let's do this together, and let's learn. Let's get educated, let's train, let's get our friends. And this is the other thing that really amazed me, was when you call those that do it for a living, right? Global leaders or local leaders, because we use a lot of small businesses as well. So I was really proud of that. They are the experts. They know what to do. So they teach you as you go, and you learn as you go, and you develop your own skill, and you can build your communities of practice by doing and learning. You know, they call this work integrated learning. This is like, you do it at work every day. So what was really exciting was they're willing to help. And, you know, I wasn't always exchanging money, right? They were coming in and doing it for free. They said, we totally want to help. Of course, there's an end game. But the point is, they were taking risk as well, and saying, let's experiment, get onto our sandbox, let's try it out, see if you like it, what can we tweak? And they were so excited. I have to be honest, the amount of energy that comes from having your partners help you and get excited really drives a lot of momentum on the team. So I don't even know what your question you asked me anymore. I'm kind of over here. I was like, I don't know what you're talking about. I really don't. But that was like, that's a big part of what really helped us to get really good at it really fast, right?
And how did you help when you came on board? Get the team familiar and comfortable with the latest technologies. You mentioned, BlackBerries and iPhones, et cetera, and then you got cloud that's moving so rapidly in new technologies.
Yeah.
How did you help ISED just start to embrace the art of the possible?
A little bit at a time.
Okay.
A little bit at a time. I don't really think I was thinking about that. We were just doing.
Okay.
And you kind of just have to get going. So the other thing about myth busting and trying to get going, you just gotta start. You gotta stop talking about it. You gotta just start. And it doesn't matter wherever you start, doesn't end up where you want to finish, right? Because you're gonna do a lot of pathfinding. So I don't really, we just have to start. So we started by, I'm not joking, 2 years ago, our Department of Innovation, it's in the title, did not have Wi-Fi everywhere. Like, we did not have Wi-Fi. We were tethered to our desks 2 years ago. We did not have tablets. We did not have, there was no collaboration, right? If you left the office, you couldn't, we had cubicles. We still do that a bit. But if you left the office, you couldn't log back in from home. Like, there was no virtual working. Canada got its first hurricane in Ottawa or something like that. I can't remember what happened. Luckily we could access our networks, but that's only because Dan and the team finally got us remote access. But joining a department that has the word innovation in it in 2017, and you don't have the basics, was really a culture shock for me, right?
How was the talent too? Like,
Talent was amazing.
Okay.
And that's what I think is part of the myth busting as well. You know, if the government is like that, that means that no one knows how to do it. What really, really drove energy for me was the team that just said, we're right here, nobody asked, right? Or people said we couldn't, so we're just kind of hanging in our cubicles and doing other work, but it's mainstream legacy work, right? So we had a team that was produced really quickly. I think the team, because it didn't have an opportunity in the last decade to learn new skills, learned them as we started to do new work. Right, so leveraging, now we have, I don't know, Dan, if I got this right, but we're leveraging Microsoft Office 365. We have a chat bot there. We have Azure. We've got AWS. We built an API store. We have, we actually have delivered the first app that services business for them to access capital and funding and do their payroll and taxes. The Everyday Business, we launched it yesterday. So I'm really proud.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, it was really good. Really good.
Tell a little bit about you, and I've been chatting about.
You got to download the app. It's if you go to the Apple Store or Google Play and you type in Canada Business, it's awesome. It's not like, you know, going to the Amazon store, right? But it's an app that actually delivers a value to citizens to help them. You know, I was in Markham, which is in northern Toronto, yesterday to help launch this. One of our ministers did it, and we had businesses there, and they actually said, "Is this real? Are you sure? Like, is this like, are you kidding me? Everything I'm looking for, I don't have to like do a Google search or try to find your website or ask questions or try to hit an 800 number where no one's going to answer. I'm like, it's all there. Just go to town."
So. Tell a little bit about the journey, because as government acts like a startup. Tell a little bit about the journey.
We are actually a startup, I would say that, yeah.
So how did you, from a year ago and the vision that you had for shipping the application the other day to now, what were some of those challenges that you just had to break down through it, and how did you get everyone behind you?
I didn't get everyone behind me.
Okay.
So one of the challenges is not to worry about it if everyone's not behind you. As long as you have enough momentum,
okay,
right? I think that I had like a loose team around me. That's one. It was like some people started and kind of left, some people came halfway through. What I had was a deputy minister. I got promoted, but 5 minutes earlier, but let's just pretend I'm still an ADM. I had a deputy minister that was behind me. My team was behind me. And I was behind them. And we had help from the outside. So that set of stakeholders is all I really needed. We had a minister behind us. She didn't know much about this, but she believed it was the right thing to do because we are a digital nation and we are always on our smartphones. So whether you have 1, 2, or 3 smartphones, you're always on your smartphone. My favorite thing is to watch people cross the street and look down at their smartphone, you know, and they have their headphones and you're honking and, you know, like, I'm surprised more people haven't tripped over their wires, but I would say that, like, there's no brilliance behind this. We're always on our smartphones. You got to deliver something that makes it easy for everyone to get access to what they need. So that was not that hard.
Was that a big shift? I mean, we have a digital populace now, used to smartphones. Was just getting that step and others from just traditional website management on laptops to thinking mobile, to ship a mobile application? Was that a challenge?
It was night and day.
Really?
But you know, the other thing, Jeff, that you asked me that I think made a difference is that I was engaged the whole time. Like this was like, it was like my product that I wanted to ship. And like it didn't look exactly the same as what I thought first. Why would it, right? Like your team gets involved and everyone puts their thoughts into it and it becomes better and better. But the one thing that I would not let go of was shipping this product. And you can ask my massive team. I would not let it go. I got told 101 different ways that we don't need to do this, and why is it an app, and why is it this, and our webs look good on the phone, websites look great on the phone, and you know what, like it's just, you know, it's silly and it's going to be confusing and no one's going to download this thing. And I was like, it's not about any of that stuff. It's about understanding your customer. And it's about being authentic about that and getting their voice. And it's about believing. And the one thing that I did, and that I don't think happens too often, maybe that's the one how that's a big difference, is I was in it the whole time. I was in every conversation, I was in every part of it, whether it was a policy issue or a technology issue or trying to figure out how we get services. I was a product owner, I was in stand-ups, I was in meetings, I was designing, I was failing. And I mean, I don't think there's a rock that was not unturned that I was not a part of. And I think that made a really big difference. I learned a lot as well. It was a good experience for me to know how government works because there's a lot of machinery issues. And like imagine I was like doing all of that and at the same time I was selling it, writing ministerial announcements and telling, you know, the story across the government and to our friends and colleagues. You know, your title is nothing if you don't do something important, right? And it's like, it's not the app that was important. It was the journey and the belief and the service that we were delivering. I mean, it could have been anything, right? We do so much policy work. It's not, what's important is you have to cut through it and you have to try and you have to be part of it. I'm not gonna just sit back like a lot of senior officials do in government, I'm just saying, and wait for the paperwork to come and oh, good job, I'm gonna sign off on this, right? You gotta deliver something. You gotta deliver one thing that you believe in, because very few people will believe exactly what you believe, and just get it done. And then, you know, it creates momentum. And it really makes a really big difference for everyone. And
so what's next? As you think about now this past year, working through the policy changes, working through code, getting what the requirements are for shipping. Now that's shipped, now you've got the momentum behind you. What's next? Like as you start thinking about what you have now enabled with government acting like a startup, what do you see the momentum carrying through? What I see is that we get closer and closer as a government to be one. Do you know what I mean? Like we rally more and more around how we serve that particular set of businesses there. So this is small and medium enterprise, right? 98% of the businesses in Canada are small and medium enterprise. And like that is like a massive you know, service that we have to deliver around them, whether it's, you know, regulations or policy or insight or funding or capital, whatever it may be. So what I'm imagining is we as governments across departments, federally, provincially, rally around this customer, right? Like it doesn't have to be, it's not one app, but from a service perspective, and learn, get their input. So the other thing that we're doing is we're getting immediate input. Like I can't believe I'm saying this, but we're getting input. And then we're going through our sprints and we're gonna fix it. So we're gonna be releasing every month. Can you believe that? I can't even believe I'm saying that. But it's unbelievable that we're actually going to fix forward based on input and feedback and modify the service every month. But what I'm imagining is, you know, as a citizen or a business, like you need a permit or a license if you're running your business, or you need access to capital. How do you know where to go? And do you care whether it's, you know, the city that's doing it, or the province, or the municipality, or the territory? And why should you care? I think our job as governments is to bring our services, like, rally around that problem and that citizen. Now to that part, we have a number of partners in private industry also out with us. You touched on earlier how the private sector helped get things started. What's your expectation from the private sector to help government run faster?
I need their ideas.
Okay.
I'd like them to innovate with us based on, like, they have outreach and insights that we will never have, right? Global. I also would like to get the ideas of the innovators, right? Like we need better access to the entrepreneurs who have amazing solutions. Like this whole GovTech industry is very nascent, and I don't think we're spending enough time rallying around that. We've got innovation centers around the country, but we really need to ingest more energy around small, medium enterprise and get their services into our hands and help. I mean, it helps them grow, but we're better off, right? So no offense to all of my multinational colleagues, but ideas come from everywhere. So I would love for large, technology companies and other companies to bring them together. Go find them, help us find them, like help us innovate together, right? So everybody wins, and we can move faster that way as well. So I'm looking for that. I'm looking for the ideas and the experimentation, and I'm looking for that to be a partnership model that is ongoing, and for the courage to happen on the outside as well. If we can be courageous and cut through all the red tape, and the red tape is insane. Even how we govern had to change in order for us to do this. Like all the permissions that I needed, wow. I mean, that was really hard, right? And so we kind of had to very gently work through that.
How did you, what's the example of where you had to break through some asking for permission to keep things on schedule or to deliver on behalf of your customer, the citizen?
We didn't have a standard for mobile apps, right? Like, we didn't have any standards. And the team showed me, I mean, back to the fact that my sleeves are rolled up, right, so I saw everything. The team was talking about a standard for websites from like many, many years ago. And they said, this is all we have, so let's follow the standard, because we need
to meet those in order to ship.
Yeah, we got to ship, so these are our standards on accessibility and security and blah, 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 like a tremendous number of standards, and we need to make sure that we serve all Canadians. So I saw the standards, and luckily, I decided to see these standards. And I said, you guys, we're not going to ship. These are standards for websites. And it's totally different, right? It's like a Tesla versus a Honda Odyssey, right? Like, it's like totally different. It's a car, I get it, but totally different standards, like how you build this stuff. And so we had to kind of work through it. So what we did instead was we went and found a few really cool apps that we have delivered in the past. There's only a handful. We called our friends in those departments. We asked them what they did. We leveraged, and we just followed that philosophy instead, and it was much faster, and it was a little bit of a new standard, I'm going to say. And just kind of went with it and got the right permission to kind of work through that. So you have to be careful, and so that's part of the question that you asked me, which is doing it differently required some imagination.
And courage.
And some courage, because there's a lot of nervous people. I said, I'm signing. It's my signature at the bottom, so don't worry about it. What are you going to do? It's an experiment. Like, if we don't do this now, I'm not going to wait another year. I'm not, like for simple things like that. And like, we're not solving world hunger. We're delivering a service, right? And we're going to get positive and negative feedback. It's part of the job.
Well, you're also looking at the standards that got presented and said, well, why? Instead of just saying those are the standards. So like you kept asking multiple times, like the 5 whys.
Yeah.
Why this? Why that? Why this?
And the answer was, that's all we have.
And then you got to innovate as a part of it.
Right.
Now, you mentioned a word earlier that sometimes it's hard for people to really comprehend, and you said, at times we failed. And so, how did you fail smartly? Like, how did you go ahead?
You don't fail smartly.
Okay, first of all, you don't.
Anyone's failed smartly, you fail pretty hard, right? I mean, sometimes you fail and no one can tell, but you know you've failed.
Right.
I would say that what you're getting to, I think, Jeff, is you want to prevent a really big, massive failure that really breaks the momentum. And you want to do like those little failures. So the little failures are going to be this. This is a great example, right? Like, we built a service, a digital service in the government of Canada where we didn't even have Wi-Fi 2 years ago in less than a year. Oh, trust me, this is not going to be the be-all, end-all, right? I'm already ready to hear what's wrong with it and what's right with it, because I know what's right with it, but I'm ready to hear what's wrong with it. But those little failures had multiple failures inside of that. Things like, we started with the wrong tech, we had to switch technology, the chatbot was really, really hard, we were starting with this tech, we had to move to that one. I had failures in governance, I didn't always get the right people on side. I may have stepped on a few toes once in a while. Trust me, they told me that. Perception.
But that innovation culture now lets you enable to do even bigger things.
It totally does. It totally does. And I think we had to ship. We had to ship. We had to get something out the door to make it possible, right? And failure is going to happen. And so it's a courageous thing. So leadership matters. The freedom to fail matters. So I'm not going to say that it doesn't matter. It does. But I didn't need everyone to believe and everyone to have courage. I needed just a few of the leaders, right? And myself, I had to keep it going. And there were many times that I wasn't really sure that we could do this. I was actually, it was rough. Many times.
And part of the success is having the talent around you to go ahead and innovate so fast.
Yeah.
How did you think about talent when you came into the role, and how are you thinking about talent now as you think about not only what you shipped yesterday, but the journey ahead?
Talent is not about your skills. Talent is about your mindset. Talent is about your attitude. Talent is about how much courage you're willing to have, how collaborative you're going to be, how much you're willing to take some risk. Talent's about, being a leader within that space that you're in. Like from the team we have, our team has morphed quite a bit, but my team is very talented, right? But some have certain expertise, some don't. But I don't go to that person and say, are you the Java developer? Are you the designer? I'm just like, I don't even know, right? What I know is I look around the team and they're all bright lights. They're all standing there with enthusiasm. They're all working together. I can't even begin to I don't even think I know how hard they worked. I think I have an idea, but I actually don't think I know. I think they worked really hard. And talent is about people who believe. So, the government is notorious for lots of process. And I did not get a single person ask anyone to sign on an overtime sheet. Or I have to work Sunday morning, so I'm going to take Monday off. Or you know what, I don't all those things that you usually hear, we're bound by these rules, Aneeta. And I didn't hear any of that because the team was so inspired and they really wanted to do this. And you know what else I'm hearing now? So many other things they bumped into that they just solved on their own. I was amazed. I think there are things they haven't even told me. Do you know what I mean? That's talent. And that's because they wanted to do it, right?
Well, and with the speed of technology moving so rapidly, all the new cloud innovations from us and others,
yeah.
How are you and your team staying current or?
With help.
With help.
Yeah.
And is it that help with the private industry?
Yeah, it's help with the private industry, right, for sure. The private industry giving us options, right? The government is also notorious for saying, oh, I'm going to procure software or service, and here's exactly what I want. Oh my God, how do you know exactly what you want? There's no innovation if you are dictating. So what we did, again, it's the team thoughts and a little bit of nudging, was we put a model together that was like around, we need a solution and we want to do this. Can you tell us exactly what you can do for us? And can you actually give us options and tell us what else is available and can we leverage that and how do we get access to that? So we got the ideas from the right places and we had enough courage to take the risk to say, okay, never done this before, but I'm going to adopt that tech.
Yep.
We are going to go to the cloud. I don't even know what it is sometimes because cloud is not a cloud, they're all kind of different. And we are going to make sure that we do the basics, and data sovereignty is really important, security is really important. But if the tech I buy looks like this and I don't know what that is, well, I need my partner to teach me and help us architect it. So we also got that kind of help, right? It wasn't just software sold to us and it's sitting there. We actually worked with our partners to learn how to do the right thing, configure more, customize less, integrate with other tech that we have, test it out, work through the release processes. We needed the help.
And how did you, with ISED being the vanguard for so many new technologies in the implementation, how did you also help the rest of government understand kind of what the art of the possible was as a part of the evangelism?
Just by doing.
Okay.
Right? There's a bit of education, so I have now spent a bit of time talking about it, but I'm also learning what else happened, right? There are other parts of the government that have done some pretty amazing things. So you have to get out there, a lot of engagements and events, a lot of people getting together so you learn from each other. So we're not the only department that's innovating, but I'll be proud to say we've leapfrogged, like significantly. And I would be proud to also say that we did it much faster, but we learned from others, right? And we were willing to be quite open with what we were gonna do. Like I said, we weren't very, very specific. But by doing, then people wanna know. Right? So I'm not having to tell the story to people who don't want to hear it. I'm telling the story to people who want to hear it. And that helped with talent, because there's a lot of people that joined the team because of what we were doing.
That then you get the momentum going, which then gets the talent behind you, which then enables you to do even more ambitious activities. Exactly.
And I have to say, there's like so much to do, but I think what we've done is created a new how. Like we have a new way to do it, right? That creates some speed. Like we even had to change governance models, right? Like who approves what and who talks to each other and how do we collaborate? And I would say that I don't have, there's still a lot of people that have doubts about, how do we do digital services and how do we service citizens and Canadians differently, and why don't the traditional methods work? There's still some of that thinking. Actually, there's a lot of that thinking, but I think that the help from the private sector is really needed, right? And I think that the private sector, and this is like a plea, needs to really have a strong voice and have the courage not to accept no, right?
So
find those that are going to say yes.
Find those that say yes, build the network around you, private industry and within the government, to then help you run faster.
Yeah, exactly.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
Now we've got a number of people here who are from government that are just getting started on their digital transformation. What advice or perspective would you share with them just starting, now looking back over the last couple of years? What advice during the next couple of days would you give them to
I would say that you need to, it's not about the tech, right, necessarily. You need to find some like-minded people, right? Two become four become eight, right? Like that's the way it works. You need to find some like-minded people. I would be seeking them out, people who've done a few things, and then you've done a few things, and you can talk about how you did them so you can improve, right? You got to find one project, like just one project, and get the most senior person in your department who has some courage or inspiration to be willing to stand in front of that so that they can push through the governance. Or if there are people like that, go work for them, go find them. You know what I mean? Like I'm not a big believer of just giving up, right? Like there's a path somewhere. There's a path somewhere. I'm not also a big believer of learning for the sake of learning. You have to learn for a purpose, right? So there's got to be an outcome you're looking for. There's got to be a project. You're going to go in training and you're going to sit there and do what with it? Like there's got to be a project, right? So you got to learn for an outcome. You learn with the team. Find people that are similar. Find a common cause, or go work for people like that, or become that leader and have them work for you. Like this is sort of the philosophy. That's what talent is, because that creates the groundswell, right? You got to start. You're not on your own. We don't get very far in life, so you got to kind of create that collection of people.
Before opening up for questions, one of the wonderful things is I've gotten to spend time with you is your focus on the customer at the end of the day for government, and that's obviously the citizens in so many amazing ways.
Yeah.
What part of that inspires you the most every day to come in and to innovate on behalf of your customer, the citizen?
I'm a second generation Canadian. My parents came here in the 60s, and I think I got lucky.
Okay.
Do you know what I mean? Like I got lucky. I could have been born somewhere else and lived a different life. I think I got lucky as a female. I got lucky as a visible minority. I got lucky as a technology leader. And like, you know, lucky, I worked really hard to get here, but the opportunity in Canada is there. And so you got to give back, right? I'm a bit older now. I have 3 kids. My husband's a great guy. He works in the tech sector. So, you know, we have built a great quality of life with a ton of hard work. There's no way we haven't been working hard, but the Canadian ecosystem allowed for that, and like, I got to do something to keep that going, right? So I have 2 boys and a girl. My girl's the youngest, and she's got to be inspired. So
lead by example.
Yeah, exactly.
So at this point, we've got a couple of mics that are
Questions?
open.
Anyone?
Any questions?
There's got to be a Canadian who's going to ask me a question. Oh, in the back. There we go.
Question in the back.
The mic's right in the middle here.
Oh, yeah, I'll ask if you could go to the mic in the front. Great.
His mic's not working. You can yell.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Up. Go ahead.
Yeah,
What's your question? We'll hear.
I'm working in the government sector, and you brought up a really great point. How do you bridge that gap between, you know, high turnover rates, right, and getting that talent and the people that forward thinking, and it's really difficult, right? Because at the end of the day, it's about numbers and about paperwork, you know, when it comes to acquiring that government talent long term to continue to innovate. And not only that, you know, there's at least hindrances when it comes to acquiring certain like you said, projects or technologies and things like that. So how do you really bridge that gap between the high turnover and also staying on track and focus, right, when it comes to innovating and staying ahead of the game? Because someone like AWS, they come out with new releases like every month. It's hard to keep up. Even I'm fresh from school and stuff like that. I'm AWS certified. I still have to keep up. So I worry sometimes about my colleagues because it's difficult. If you don't have the proper training and stuff involved on premise, especially if you travel with your work as well and deal with many different other, you know, components and things like that, you know, it can be very difficult.
So is your question about talent or about tech?
It's both. It's about keeping the talent there, right, when it comes to turnover, and also staying on track when it comes to innovating.
So how do you keep the talent within government?
I don't know if I have that secret of how I keep talent in government. To be honest with you, I don't think I'm super skilled at it. I think what I have figured out though is that if you have like a really amazing thing to do, the talent rallies around it, right? Something that is different. It could be anything. It doesn't have to be a piece of technology or a service. It could be anything, something different, something that gets your juices flowing, right? That allows people to think and put their ideas on the table. The thing with, I mean, government's a, you know, very old business. So the thing with older businesses is that we have very thin, straight lines, right? We have to follow these processes and these lanes. But, you know, I don't know about you.
Agile.
Sorry?
Waterfall versus agile, those, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Transition.
But you know, if you're young and happening, or even if you're at my stage and you still want to innovate, you have to find new paths. You have to create them, because otherwise, you know, the human mind is not being used, right? So if you find projects that people can rally around, that are open and green space, that's how you keep talent, right? And it gives people the chance to put their minds on the problems, and they're not told exactly, you do this for 2 days and you do that for 3 days. And no, it's innovation, right? Let's go figure this out together in the best way possible, whether you're innovating on a new process to do it or leveraging tech. You're giving people big problems to solve. I think that's how you keep talent.
All right. Thank you. Wonderful.
Okay, thanks.
Other questions?
Is this a travel mic now, or should I keep it here?
Anyone else?
Yeah, right up here. If I could ask, the mic right over there. Thank you.
So as you're driving innovation in a place where people are likely to say no sometimes, and you build up this team of people around you, and you have a vision, once you build that momentum, it can take an emotional toll because you're not sure whether you're driving in the right direction because no one's done this before, right? Mm-hmm. So how did you handle that? How did you handle those days of, oh no, like you said, sometimes you fail and other people don't know it, but you know it.
Yeah, I actually, I found it was hard. It was hard for a while, right? I had to actually lean on my team to sometimes pick me up. I didn't really, I wasn't always there in the front of the parade, right? Sometimes they would have to say, we're gonna do this, it's gonna be okay. So it was a bit of a team effort. There's a lot of team bonding that way, a lot of beers.
It's a lot of beer.
A lot of beer. But it was that, like I did find it hard sometimes. There was a lot of times that I got beat up. And I think my team got beat up quite a bit as well. Some people gave up and left, some people came in. I also needed help from my colleagues outside. It was people. There was a bright light. Here was the one thing. The light never completely disappeared on the team. There was always a bright light somewhere. It doesn't matter. Somebody still had the energy when someone else didn't. And that's back to, because we were a team, we weren't sitting in cubicles. Like, I walked into this open space in our office, everyone was just hanging around. You know, those gummy worms and chips and get fat, that's for sure. You know, and everyone was just hanging around, and there was no micromanagement. I don't know what anyone was doing. It was a massive team. But we were just doing. They're working different times of day, doing different things. We were just allowed to be ourselves, right? And even me, I'd go and sit there, and early days, it was a bit uncomfortable for them. And now I would just go and sit there, and they would sometimes even ignore me. I'm like, that's cool. What are you guys doing? So it required that level of teamwork.
Did you know that you were building did you know that you were building the foundation of the culture for innovation, or did it just sort of just happened?
No, I don't think I knew I was building a foundation of culture, but what I did know was we were pathfinders. I didn't know what path it was going to be.
Yeah.
But you know what, though? Had the courage. Like, I'm not going to give this up. Like, we are going to do something. And it ain't going to be awesome the first time, right? But the energy that comes, I don't know how many parties we've had since then, or gatherings. People are just constantly high-fiving each other. But the energy behind doing something that delivers a service to a Canadian, that's job one. Mm-hmm. And you're doing it totally differently, and everyone's ideas are on the table, and the boss doesn't care, is awesome. That's the outcome.
Thank you. This is extremely validating.
Yeah, good.
Other question, time for one more. You also had the conviction.
Conviction, totally, yeah.
Yeah, I'm Kevin.
We weren't flying to the moon, right? It was not just something simple.
I'm Kevin from Washington State. One of the questions I have is, you came in into an organization, from my understanding, is that kind of old habits of just building infrastructure for the sake of building infrastructure.
Yeah.
How did you manage the cultural change of shifting from holding on to old technologies to pushing more on the leading edge as far as innovation? We always struggle with, our staff are sitting here going, oh, we can't do that because we got so much work maintaining the junk that we've got.
I remember.
How do you flip that on its head?
It's a very good how question. I really like your question. So what he's asking is, everyone's doing their thing. We've got hundreds of projects. Everyone's got their heads down. I remember Dan and I, raise your hand, Dan, right there, CIO. Dan and I talking, and I was like, we need a digital team. He's like, I know. Or we need a team, an innovative team. But the teams are all working on digital things too, and IT and IM things and everything else, and many of them are innovators. And we didn't have a whole bunch of money yet, because you kind of have to do a little bit before you get a lot more cash in your wallet. And so, I had to seed it a little bit. And I was like, where are these people going to come from? And so Dan, he sorted it out as well, right? We found some people here and there. It was back to volunteers. People said, I'm actually willing to do multiple projects if I get to do this one as well. Like, we weren't just assigning people. People like, I want in. I want to do that. Don't worry about it. I will do it. I'm gonna help you. And that made a difference as well, because people volunteered to do it. And that's what talent is. And then it became, okay, we have some white space because we don't have all the expertise and the skills that we need. And it was like a bit of this thing. And I'm not joking, the team didn't really form together until the last 6 months. I was having some heart attacks. I was like, oh my God, we don't have enough momentum. Because we started the work maybe 10 months ago, the first 3-4 months. I was like, where is everybody? I'd walk into, we created a space, moved everything. I'm like, there's no one here, Dan. He's like, I know. I'm like, oh God, we're in so much trouble. We had some moments when we were quite afraid. I said, how are we gonna do it? There's no one here. But then finally, it started to happen, and then we delivered a few little things, like we got some cloud services. We went through the paperwork and the governance and the buying people coffee till we can get things signed, and we got cloud. It took that, by the way. It was, if I followed a normal procurement process, I would not be sitting here at all. We had to find different ways. And these are human beings. If you call someone and they become a good friend or they're good people, they're gonna do it for you. They're gonna do it. They will find a way. They know their processes and their systems better than you do, and they'll find a way. And that's how we did it. They found a way because people started to want us to be successful, right? And then people started helping. Like, I don't know how many hundred people. There are people who just spent 2 days on a problem from another department. I don't even know who this person was. I bumped into this person and said, oh my God, you're doing great work. I'm like, who are you? I was over at your office and I was helping on this. And I'm like, you were? Oh my God, that's awesome. So that's how it happened. And then that new team that was about this big became bigger and bigger and bigger. And you had to have faith and just cross your fingers, and it got bigger. And then we actually had the momentum, and we were pounding out those releases and getting them tested in 2-week sprints. Yeah.
Aneeta, first of all, congratulations.
To the team? Yep, definitely.
Shipping the new application.
We shipped
Remember, she
something.
gave some homework for everybody to go ahead and
Download it.
download the new application. But thank you for the
My pleasure. It was a lot
inspiring
of fun.
words and sharing with the group
Well,
of
thanks for
your
asking.
journey.
Okay.
Thank you so much.